So I've had a couple of questions about how this deal that we're doing goes together. So just to recap, we're taking a house that had quite a large block out the back and we're cutting it up, and so we're ending up with 9 new blocks out the back with a nice new road access and that sort of thing. And we've got a house at the front with its own block subdivided off. So we're going to be selling that on. So from my mind, there's two parts to a subdivision deal like that. There's two parts to the finance. The first part is that you have to have your agreement in place between you and your JV partner, how that's financed, how that's agreed, how the sort of responsibilities break up. And the second part is how you actually structure the deal with the vendors and structure that sort of the doing part of the deal. So basically my JV partner and I got to know each other over sort of 1 or 2 years of meeting at conferences and chatting. She lives in Sydney, and we chatted about sort of doing a JV deal several times, and we got to know each other quite well. We looked at a few other deals. We hadn't gone ahead on any of them because they weren't quite right, or because she was quite busy on a few of her own other projects. She's got a few. And yeah, so we'd just been chatting about what to do, and every time we saw each other, we're like, yeah, we really need to do something. So this deal came up here in Launceston at Christmas time, at the end of last year, and it was leading up into Christmas, and it was a really good thing because all the businesses and all the serious sort of developer type teams who do a lot of this little infill things around here, they like to do it as their bread and butter. They weren't ready to move because, you know, they were on holidays, and we got in nice and quick. So we basically agreed very early on how we would finance it between us. Mostly my JV partner is financing it, and I'm doing the work because obviously I'm located here. I have all the contacts, I know all the people. She flies in and, you know, gets involved in parts when she has time, and the rest of the time I just keep her really well updated. And we also talked about how the profit would be shared and how that would be managed. So once that was all in agreement, we were already in the process of negotiating the deal, and that's where it kind of got a bit interesting. Now, we wanted to get it off the market pretty quick, so we did pay a little bit of a premium price, especially if you were just looking at it as a house. But for what we paid, considering the land content that was at the back, we were really happy with it. But we also negotiated for the current owners to stay in the property. The property was staged absolutely beautiful for sale when we were looking at it, and we really wanted to maintain that so that it looked the same when we were selling it. So we did a deal with them where they stay in the property. They get our 10% deposit up front, which is a reasonable chunk of cash to just hand over unconditionally. We have an unconditional contract in place, but we do have some pretty creative clauses in there, which basically we took delivery of the entire back 3/4 of the block straight away. We can do what we like out there. We can run our tradesmen out there, our professionals, all those sorts of people out there. We can do anything we like. The previous owners have been really, really good. And we can also market the property again with them in it. So we also did a deal where we pay them an extra few $1,000s on top of the purchase price as a staging fee, and for the inconvenience of them having to stay in the property and having to keep it immaculate for the whole time that we're kind of reselling it. Which worked in our favour really well, because when it went back to market, it essentially looked exactly the same property. It just had that big chunk of land, which was a detractor for most people, taken off the back. So when people went, well, how does that work? The agent had to explain to them, well, a developer has bought the block, they're subdividing it off, we're selling it right now, but that's subject to title being issued, and that could potentially, it's been a bit of a sticking point with the people who have bought it. But most people looked at that and went, look, we totally understand, can we move in now, or is that going to hold us up? And we were always happy for people to move in. Frankly, we'd rather have someone who's contracted, is unconditional, is just waiting on a title, and treats it like their own property the whole time we're doing our development, because then we don't have to maintain the house, we don't have to secure it, and we don't have to stress about it. But I mean, obviously it also allowed us to be flexible for anyone who has to sell another property. But that's working out fairly well. It's meant that the lawyer had to write quite a bit of paperwork around that, about how it looked and how it would work. And the interesting thing is, the people who are buying it have been quite happy to do that. But they're worried that at some point we may decide not to do the subdivision, mess the title up, not do the title at all, and then take their deposit and walk away. And so we've had to really sort of reassure them around that and be a bit more explicit in the contract to protect them from us. while not leaving the contract unconditional, which is really what they've been pushing for, and that doesn't protect us in the slightest from them. So anyway, so yeah, basically the purchase of the house has been kind of interesting like that. We haven't even settled on it. We've just paid our 10% deposit. We already have our deposit from the next people buying it from us, but we have to settle when the current owners, or the people we bought it from, move out, and that's in about 4 to 6 weeks. When they move out, we will settle the property out. Now, my JV partner has financed that through her company. There'll be a 20% deposit, and then the balance will be made up via an 80% LVR loan. And then the subdivision will continue on from there. And just due to the low cost of most of this deal, my JV partner will be essentially funding all of the civil works and those sorts of costs, which aren't looking too massively extreme at the moment, mostly via cash. If it gets a little bit too high or it doesn't suit her, we will finance them. But for the time being, it's a pretty simple sort of cash deal. And when we get to the end, the sales will be done, and the first thing that gets paid back is the loan on the property. Once the loan on the property is paid out, essentially it's just my JV partner and I in the deal, then the next thing that gets paid out is all the contractors and those people. They all have to get paid before us. And then once the final money starts coming in, it's beyond that, it'll be 50-50 between the two of us, so that we're both evenly paid along the way. Now, that's kind of the intention. There may be a case that one or two of the blocks get kept by either or both of us. We may continue to develop the project a little bit, but that's kind of we've left that a little bit undocumented and towards the end, and we've got a really good relationship. We get on really well, so I think there'll be no problems with that. Worst case scenario, we sell everything, we cash up, we walk away. Best case scenario, maybe we build a couple of houses together. There's a block that's particularly, I think, suitable to a duplex. So yeah, we're happy to consider that sort of thing. So yeah, basically, have your agreement, having your JV partnership together before you find the deal is actually really, really good. Deals are everywhere. JV partners are not. A good person that you can work with who's got what you need, whether that's serviceability, time, a mentality, contacts, a location. I mean, that's what I kind of bring to this deal as much as anything else. I bring a location where you can do a subdivision and buy the block with a house on it for $500,000. Like, that doesn't exist in Sydney and big chunks of the mainland without going quite regional. Whereas you get that in a great location down here, and you get to visit Tasmania tax deductibly. I mean, yeah, so have that JV relationship in place. It's something that's often said in the courses that we do, and it's actually really true. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them down the bottom in YouTube or Facebook or wherever you see this, and I'll be happy to answer them. Cheers.